everybody, my name is Tanya and today we're going to talk about The Bees by Laline Paull. So The Bees was my August pick for the Booktube Recommends Project, and it was recommended to me by the lovely Eleanor from Eleanor Reads Books, and Eleanor is one of the people who really inspired me to give this project a go. Between her and Patty and I Smell Books, and of course Rachel at the Shades of Orange, who created the project in the first place. She was one of the ones that I saw put out a TBR for it, and I decided it sounded like a lot of fun and that I wanted to join in. This, as I said, was my August pick for the Booktube Recommends Project. I'm filming this in late October. I've been quite slack with my filming lately and my editing, and I just haven't quite got to this one. Also, I've been meaning to do a little bit of research around bee culture as such after reading this one, and I just haven't been getting to that either. I have done a little bit of research this morning, not really extensive, but let's give this a go. So, as you can no doubt glean from the title, The Bees follows the story of a hive of bees, and in particular one bee, Flora 717, who is born as a sanitation worker, one of the lowliest of the cast of bees, and follows kind of her journey through the hive and her status as quite an unusual bee and the experiences that gains her. And so, as I said, for my review I kind of wanted to look a little bit more into bee society to see how much of this is based on fact, how much of this is poetic license, and how much is just made up for the story. And so the world we're in for the bees is a very hierarchical kind of totalitarian society where we've got our one leader, our queen, and the strictures and kind of specific tasks that the different castes of bees are given. We've got, as I said, Flora is born as a sanitation worker. We've got the bees that do the gathering and get the food. We've got the bees who work in the nursery looking after the eggs that the queen has laid. And at the top we have the priestess bees, the sage, and each bee kind of has its role within the society, whereas Flora kind of refuses to conform. So I've done some very, very, very brief Googling on the topic of bees, and the consensus is there is a lot in this that is based on reality, and there is, some license taken, which is as I expected. One of the main consensus in how the bees is not necessarily strictly accurate is in how Flora is portrayed. So basically Flora, as I said, is born into the sanitation worker caste, and that's where she's meant to stay. Whereas bees do naturally progress through different kind of roles in their time in the hive, and they don't necessarily stick to that one area. So what's portrayed as quite unusual in Flora's case is actually normal in normal bee society. But in general, this is based on some amount of fact. And I decided when looking into this that the answer to whether or not this is strictly scientifically accurate actually didn't matter to me, because reading it and living the story, it felt totally plausible at the time of reading it, and really that's all that mattered. So whether or not this is an accurate portrayal of bee society, we are being given a very strict, very interesting society, as I said, a totalitarian society where we have the queen bee, and very strict ranks of different castes of bees around it, and progressing through that society and learning about the kind of barriers and the rules that are governing the society is incredibly interesting. And so basically it's a world of conformity where each bee has its role to play. The overarching mantra of the bees is accept, obey and serve, and basically that's the life that is expected for those bees. They have their role, they play their part, and Flora's kind of sitting outside of this, playing her part, but what that part actually is and the boundaries that she's pushing are all very interesting. And of course that's, your basic setup for this kind of novel, where we've got this really restrictive society and our heroine or hero pushing the boundaries and, taking the system down. Now that's not necessarily where this story goes, but it is your general setup for this kind of thing. So I really enjoyed this. I found the world fascinating, I found the perspective fascinating, I found an incredibly interesting concept. As I said, we're setting up that standard, not exactly dystopian, but that totalitarian society, but where instead of looking at a human society, we're turning it into bee form, but making those same points and really humanizing the bees to bring that kind of point across, which is not necessarily your regular setup, and so I think it worked very well in that regard as something a little bit different. So another big part of my enjoyment of this one is the fact that I listened to the audiobook. after hearing Sarah from Sarah Actually Reads talk about the audio version of this one, I decided I would go with that when reading it, and I'm really glad I made that decision. It was a really fantastic audio version. It was narrated by Orla Cassidy, and I think she was the perfect voice for Flora, and I think really added a lot to my overall enjoyment of the book and to bringing out the storyline. So thank you once again to Eleanor for recommending this one to me. I had heard of it, but I hadn't kind of got around to deciding whether I was going to pick it up or not, so I'm really pleased for the push to have done so, and I really enjoyed it. So if you read this one and want to chat about it, do let me know in the comments, or if you've got any questions. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!